life in the isolated canyons of the high-altitude deserts in southern Peru has changed little for thousands of years. These verdant valleys, fed by glacial runoff, were attractive to the conquering Incas for their productivity, and to tourists today for their avian treasures. Much of the Peruvian Andes is high, cold desert. Here and there in profound canyons, there's enough water for people to irrigate and subsist, in many cases unchanged since before the time of the Incas. Here we see people well adapted to desert living, and if we're lucky, we'll catch a glimpse of that potent symbol of the Inca god, the Andean condor. My Argentine archaeologist friend, Axel Nielsen, has volunteered to take me back in time. To get to the Colca Canyon, we climb into the towering Andes, the Cordillera, as it is called in Spanish. We follow pre-Incan roads past sacred places where llama caravans once plotted to get to the fertile canyon below. I know we're pushing, or at least almost at 16,000 feet. Gosh.
All the places that a traveler finds along the road, the high mountains of the Andes, the mountain passes are no doubt the most important and sacred places. The mountain passes mark the end of very strenuous parts of the trail. They bring you closer to the mountains, which are, the mountain spirits are the ones that protect you on your journey. All the Andean peoples perceive these places as sacred, but at the same time as dangerous, as transitional spaces. And for that reason, probably, they develop a lot of rituals and ceremonial ways of dealing with these dangers. This is another thing that I've seen traditional caravan drovers do. When they get to a mountain pass, they make this little rock pile, and they call each rock the wishes. This is what they wish they can bring in their exchange trip they're going in. And in the old days, we have some 16th century accounts of other rituals that were playing in the old days. And one of them was to pull out some of the eyelashes and offer them to the apacheta, and also sing some songs that have been lost now. Today, most travelers, what they would do libations, and they would offer coca leaves to the apachetas in the mountain pass.
Axel, it strikes me that this is not just sacred because it's a high pass, but from here you can see every volcano, every range for maybe 200 miles around.
Yeah, that's true. Well, when you're going up a slope and then all of a sudden you reach the pass, a totally new view of the landscape appears before you. And it's also the place where you can make sort of eye contact with the apus, the mountain spirits that protect you on the journey.
The apus. Well, I can certainly understand that. They stand out. I don't know how far away those are, but it's as if they're maybe a couple miles away and staring at you. And that's an effect of the air being so clear that it's as if they are personally keeping an eye on whatever you do. We're at a place called Patapampa, which means the plains above in Quechua. We're at 16,100 feet above sea level. That's 1,500 feet higher than any point in the continental United States. We're following an old Inca and pre-Columbian trail. It was a special place for them. It's cold, but around here you can sense an era of a sacred place.
We know that these mountains around here were very important for the Incas because a few years ago the Sebencaya began to erupt, the volcano. So the heat melted the snow cap of the Ampato and uncovered the remains of a of a young lady that had been sacrificed by the Incas.
She'd been covered by snow all those centuries?
Yeah, and that snow had preserved her intact, with all the textiles and the beautiful garments that she wore for the sacrifice.
We stay on the ancient road as it drops 4,000 feet into the Colca Canyon, whose thousands of terraces were so productive that the conquering Incas claimed it for their own.
The Colca Valley is a typical example of what happened to many of these Andean peoples, highland peoples, when the Incas expanded. The power of the Inca Empire is the road system. How they had developed, their basis of their subsistence, and how when the Incas came in, somehow this infrastructure was expanded greatly. Colca is a Quechua word that means a granary or storage room. The Incas used to build groups of these colcas, or storage rooms, in various parts of the empire to concentrate the production, especially in agricultural areas. Some of these terraces are so tall that to go from one to the next, they left these stone stairways. And here, this is a colca. It's a granary where they used to save part of this year's harvest to use as a seed for the next season. These are the ones that give the name to the canyon. We know for sure there had been people for at least 1,200 years in the Colca Valley. In the case of the terracing of the Colca Valley, we can see that this is the result of the work of many peoples during many centuries. Probably the Incas expanded this terracing system, but they did not start it at all. When the Incas conquered a valley like the Colca, they would impose a labor tax on the local population. Taxes were paid in labor, actually. People would have to work a certain amount of time every year for the empire. So the Incas would never take the people's, say, crops, but they would take their labor and make them produce crops for the Inca Empire.
We have lots of choyas in the Sonoran Desert, but I have never seen them planted in fences before.
Yeah, I think they planted them here to keep the cattle out of their fields. It's cheaper than barbed wire, and you really need it next to the road.
I suppose with this road here and all the cows...
We can guess that some of this terracing would be used to support the local population, whereas other parts of this terracing would be state terraces, state fields, whose produce would be used by the empire to supply the Inca road system, for instance, and other resource-poor areas like the southern coast of Peru, for example.